Hey, welcome in everybody to the evolution of RPG. Today is a very special Christmas edition with my good friend Jon Legitamine from all the way from Greece.
Hello, Johnny. Thanks for having me, and thanks to Alex Oliver for setting this up. You're a
Yes,
legend.
another amazing job from our fine producer RX Oliver. So, Jon, let me ask you a question. When did you get involved with RPGs?
I think it was late 90s, early 2000s with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. It was actually with a group of friends of my older brother, shout out to QP, who were inviting me. I was just finished up reading Lord of the Rings back then. So the very idea that we got to play something like that, but it will be interactive, it's not going to be a video game, it's not going to be something else, really, really intrigued me. And was obviously I really liked it many years later. But yes, it was afterwards with Vampire the Masquerade that got really into it. That I started to create my own stories and play like every week and stuff like that.
It's funny you mentioned Lord of the Rings, Hobbit. It just seems like I think that may just be that one movie or whatever that had captured everybody and drew everybody in to the start of RPGs.
Yeah, that's I agree. I think it's like Tolkien is the father of fantasy, and most of us do start with Dungeons and Dragons, so there is a correlation there between the two, definitely.
So let me ask you a question. This is just my personal favorite question I like to ask everybody because I still remember mine from back in the day. Do you remember your very first character, and the whole shebang there of when the first time you played D&D?
Yes, I do remember. Not the name though. The name has been lost in the annals of time. But it was a half-elven rogue. Something I would most definitely not play today because it's not my preference anymore. But I think it was a combination of Legolas from Lord of the Rings and the video game Thief that was popular back in the day. So I wanted to create a mix of the two. I remember it was like a very cool looking like a roguish type, and I don't play rogues anymore. I don't like them, but back in the day I think it was very cool for me.
Now you also mentioned Vampire the Masquerade. That's something I had just gotten into just this past year, and I absolutely love it. I've been trying to find a group for ages to try to get into a VTM game. Let me ask you, when it comes to D&D and Vampire the Masquerade, which difference do you like between the two systems?
That's a nice question. I think from the very start, Dungeons and Dragons is more combat oriented, whereas Vampire the Masquerade is more roleplay oriented. I think that's the main differentiations between the two. Whereas the Dungeon Master Guide, the book that is for the DMs, teaches you how to set up encounters, how to set up traps, to give out loot, award experience, stuff like that. It was the Storyteller's Companion from Vampire the Masquerade that actually helped me to tell my own stories. It included like storytelling mechanics, like techniques, from flashbacks to flash forwards to creating cutscenes and how to deal with situations that may come up during play. For example, someone that is the power player, how you deal with a power player as the GM, as the storyteller. So that really inspired me to create my own stuff one day, the Storyteller's Companion from Vampire the Masquerade.
I agree 100%. So the internet by far has changed the way RPGs are played around the world. We all started out playing tabletop, and I remember interviewing Oliver. He said he'd like to hear those dice roll against the table. So in your eyes, how do you feel that the internet has changed the way we play from years ago to today?
Yeah, most definitely, especially post-quarantine, things have changed. The landscapes of RPGs have most definitely changed. And actually, Oliver did mention a couple of very good points when to the previous episode of the evolution of RPGs. And I will mention them again, but briefly, because I want also to add some other stuff I have in mind. He said that basically you can meet and play with other players from all over the world, which is a big one. This is one of, if not the biggest things that has changed, because when we were growing up, we would have a few friends that would play. Maybe we would go to a game shop, be introduced to a couple more, maybe a convention, and then you will play with the people in your local area. But now you get to play with everyone in the world. We've already played a session together and we are like an ocean apart. And so that's really a big one. And also you get to play a lot more for the same reason as that. Not just with new people, but a lot more, not just with a whole landscape opens up before you of possibilities. And the other thing that I would like to mention is that, you cannot really replace sitting around the table and listening to the dice, the roll of the dice, but actually Foundry VTT does have the sound effects for rolling the 3D dice, but it is you cannot really replace the how easy role playing with others and having a conversation with others, because if we are using like headsets and headphones, stuff like that, if two or more people talk upon each other, none will be heard. So you cannot really have dynamic interactive role play with many people at the same time. And those are the issues. But the new opportunities that have arisen with the rise of virtual tabletop platforms and better connections with the internet, better webcams, better microphones, is that you get, for example, with my game Metanthropes, now we have a module to Foundry VTT, and we have all the system has been automated through the virtual tabletop there, so it becomes extremely easy using the rules, getting to understand the rules, because it does all the automations for you, and that's something you cannot really do with pen and paper RPGs. So technology, if used correctly, can open up many gateways towards playing with more people and playing in a more dynamic and tech-savvy fashion.
Very true. So here's the question everybody's going to want to know about yourself. Back in the day, right? Now we're going back when everybody started tabletops. Everybody wants to know, what was your go-to food?
I guess it was... Yeah, I would say it's something we call souvlaki here in Greece, which is like a kebab with like a pita kebab. Maybe you've heard something like that. It's like meat on a like a pie, on a round pie with vegetables, and it used to be really cheap back then, and it was like something lots of students and would order with ease. But also pizza and burgers, also good picks. When you are DMing, you have a lot, or GMing, or narrating, or storytelling. The one behind the screen has a lot less chance to snack, because you talk a lot more, and you cannot really describe role playing a lich and shoving popcorn down your throat. So yeah, I do miss some snacks. Role play amongst yourselves, because I want to eat right now.
One of the funny stories I like to share is we the guy I played with, we lived right down the street from a pizza parlor, and here in the United States, on the pizza box, you would have, it was like a coupon, and if you saved so many coupons, like 10 coupons or so, you would get a free pizza. Well, we would order 3 or 4 pizzas a night, and so every other week we would come in with coupons, and the guy started getting mad at us. No more free, no coupon. So every time we would order pizza, he would X off the coupon.
Yeah, that goes well with role-playing games and get-togethers, ordering food.
So, I had the opportunity of playing a system that you started called Metanthropes. Would you like to explain that to the community?
Yeah, I have created a game called Metanthropes. It's a game about ordinary individuals gifted with extraordinary abilities, finding their place in a massive, vast multiverse with mind-bending dimensions and intertwining timelines and spirits and meta powers and the whole 9 yards. Right now, we have a very, very powerful module at Foundry VTT. It's the one that you got to play has been massively updated since then. Actually, day by day becomes better. Now we're including also sound effects and visual effects with activation of meta powers, and we're taking all of the opportunities that I discussed earlier about VTT and incorporating them to this game. It features a D100 system. The players have high stats, lots of rerolls. The Metanthropes are supposed to feel powerful, and at every scene, based on your roleplay, you get more rerolls. And when you activate your meta powers, you get to modify them and have it a modular way. So based on your level of success, you can increase the range or include more targets or do other stuff. So it's always fun using these meta powers that make you feel, which basically like superpowers, but we call them meta powers.
Yes. And let me tell you, for anybody out there that has an opportunity to play this game, from what I understand, you're going to be releasing this pretty soon?
Oh yeah, that's thanks for allowing me to solve my promo here. This February 2024, we are participating in something called ZineQuest, from that Kickstarter for the last 5 years has been doing, which basically supports small-time creators creating little booklets like zines. I think I have one next to me. This one is ancient. I think it's from the 80s or stuff like that, which are basically 40 to 60 pages and soft cover with a stapled side, not like a big books with 300 pages, stuff like that. So we are going to create our own introductory to Metanthropes zine, and it's going to include all the rules of the game, 10 pre-made characters to select and play with, a one-shot story, which is basically something like the one that you played, like in the opera story one-shot session. And also we will also include the module of Foundry VTT, and we're gonna have amazing rewards like having playing sessions with me, or digital bundles that also give you early access to all the content to the website with 100 meta powers and 100 combos and dimensions and antagonists and stuff like that. So yeah, coming this February only on Kickstarter.
So if anybody, and again, I only because I got the opportunity to test play it and with some great players, it's by far, besides some of the games I played already, the best game I've ever played. So if anybody's interested in obtaining this, how do they go about doing it?
Right now, your journey can start at metanthropes.com. We will have some links on the description, I guess. And during the Kickstarter, you will have a chance to buy the PDF, or buy the physical version of the book, or play on Foundry as a module that you get a CD key. You install the CD key and you get to play with your friends, and all of the above, of course. Yeah.
So how did from becoming a player, what inspired you to actually become a writer and a creator for the Metanthropes?
Well, I was like the de facto GM of my group, whether we were playing Dungeons & Dragons or Vampire. From 15 years old or something, I started to create my own stories. So it's like I've been doing that for 20 years. So at some point, it was I was during my mandatory military service. We do have here that on Greece, where I was already writing like a zombie survival game, TTRPG, which basically has the same like roots and the same system for Metanthropes. Was like the very early beginnings. So I was writing my own system, and then I was like, why don't I try to do this like for a living or something like that? I was like 10 years ago, and it was initially back then I didn't think that you could actually make a living with RPGs. TTRPGs in particular. So I started with computer games, then moved to tabletop games, created lots of prototypes there. And then I realized if I am going to spend all of my time and energy, why not do the thing that I truly love? And the best games that there are out there are the TTRPGs games, in my opinion. But whoever disagrees hasn't played one. And I think it's like the saying that if you cannot find the book that you're looking for on the shelf, write it your own. Write on your own. I think the same goes with Metanthropes. I want to create a game that basically you can bring any fictional character to life, and it will be the game to tell all tales, whether that would be on the distant future, where every human is evolved to a Metanthrope, or in the distant past, in the mythologies eras, where Metanthropes are like gods amongst humans, or what will happen in the modern era if like meta-humans, Metanthropes became a thing. How would they influence governments and culture and humanity as a whole? So all of those things inspired me. Yeah.
As a creator, and I guess one of the most important things, especially when it comes to the internet, how important and how much time when you created your game did you take into creating visual aids?
Visual aids as like the virtual tabletop, for example,
yes.
Or like it was my initial idea was to create a book, like a huge 300-page book, and then like the narrator's compendium, and then like antagonist, book of antagonists, and so on, like the traditional course. And then it was we already created metanthropes.com back in 2019, and we were using it for like the same way that we used the SRD type of like D&D, like cross-linked. If you want like to check meta powers online, you can do so in like a website that has all the data. And we were already using it, and then we expanded it and created like calendars and the ways that you can have like private clubs on the website. And then the pandemic hit, and then we couldn't get together to play and playtest anymore. And I really wanted to playtest, especially at the early steps of this development process. So we started exploring the world of VTTs, and it wasn't until 1 year ago that we settled on Foundry, because we realized that through code you can do anything you have in mind in that game. And although it is truly remarkable, obviously I'm biased, but I will say it's remarkable and it's amazing already. I do think there is a lot of room to grow, and as we can like make it like not like a video game, because that's not my goal to make it a video game, but make all the transitions so seamless and so easy to understand and to play that you will just be clicking stuff and playing the game without even have to know the rules. It will be so intuitive that it will be so easy and fun to play online.
And I'm sure you can agree. Well, even you at one time, you were a player, and then you had inspirations of becoming a creator. If somebody out there, again, just like yourself, wanted to create their own system, what would be some tips that you could help them out in trying to achieve those goals of becoming a creator as yourself?
Ooh, that's a cool question. Okay, let's start with the basics. Playtest. Playtest is key. Actually, the process of going through from inception to actually manifesting it will teach you a lot of things. You will have to write quite a lot, and when you explain it and start as early as possible, I will say two things for new creators. First, this will be start as early as possible to do blind playtesting, and playtesting with people that are not your friends. and try to figure out how easy it is to explain it. Because your friends, you can maybe you have elaborated a lot more within a night out, where you were drinking or something, and you have all the time in the world. But when you have like 2 to 3 hours to introduce someone to the game, you have to have like a flow, like who I am, what this game is about. These are the quick intro rules. Now let's start playing. You don't have to shove them all the information. You have to create your own flow of information so that it will be an enjoyable experience. You don't want to be, they are your play testers but not your guinea pigs. They need to have fun when they are play testing. The second would be, and I think that would be more of a challenge to most people, to get into social media and showcasing your work as early as possible. Maybe just have the general idea and a concept, start showing it, start talking about it, start creating your Instagrams or whatnot, all the socials. And I know many creatives are not really into that, and can be more of like energy consuming, but I think it's essential in the day that we live in. And you will get to show and receive lots of more feedback from many people a lot sooner, so they will definitely help you mold your game into something that is consumer friendly and hopefully marketable and profitable at some point.
During a lot of different games I've played, there's always been that wow factor as a player or as a GM. Whether it was a certain action saved a party or somewhere along that line, what would have been your wow factor as either a DM or a player character?
Something you mean like from my past experience?
Past or present?
All right, I have the first thing that came to mind was a funny story. We were playing Vampire the Masquerade. I was a storyteller, and I introduced a Malkavian character, which is actually my favorite clan, which are the ones that have like dementation, and they are like unstable, to say the least. And I introduce a character that opens up their coat, and they have full of C4 explosives, and said like, nobody move, I'm crazy, I will blow things up. And one of my characters decided for some reason they had like potents, they were really, really strong, and they decided to throw like a tennis ball at the center of the device, hoping that it will malfunction or something. And they succeeded. It was very successful role, but I described it to them. Okay, then you hear a click, and then you see a bright light, you feel warmth, and that's the last thing that you all feel. You're all dead, TPK. And they started, no, it went like crazy. It was my first TPK that I attempted. And one of my players at the time was actually my girlfriend back then. And she was like, no way, I'm letting you do this, because she decided to throw, I love my character, stuff like that. I received like lots of backlash for that TPK.
Did you have to sleep on the couch at night?
The most definitely, yeah. And it was my first TPK, and I think it is embarrassing to say in the world of GMs and DMs, but I was forced by my players to run it back, go back in time, and that thing never happened because I received so much backlash. But that was my first TPK attempt, and ever since then I have successfully made at least a couple more TPKs, and I didn't care about their whining and crying. I say bad ideas in game and bad executions might lead to a TPK, and they need to know it. And yeah, that was my first TPK attempt, and it went badly. Nobody enjoyed it, nobody wanted it, and I was forced to rewind time.
So is there anybody, any inspirations out there? Anybody, any other plugins that you wanted to add to the session here today?
I would like to give a shout out to RX Oliver. I would like to give a shout out to Infinite Monkey Tales and Boys from the Baltic Star. They're both groups from the UK who have wonderful Discords, and they are quite active on Twitch. And they were among the first people who welcomed me as a player to their communities, and then playtested my game. And that's where I met you, actually, through Oliver, because I met him through Infinite Monkey Tales. And Yeah, they are a great group of role players, and they play lots of games, both of them. So shout out to both of those groups.
You know, I can agree on that. I've only known you for maybe about a month when we play test at the Metanthropes, and as well as Oliver. It's what the internet has done to the style of role playing is just phenomenal. Like who would ever think that you would meet somebody from Greece and get a chance to play a system that I played, or in our producer Oliver have a chance to meet somebody from Scotland, and it's just it's absolutely phenomenal. And I think again, evolution of RPG.
Yeah, truly, this is the evolution of RPG. I think it's the interconnectivity and the opportunity to actually play with people all around the world that is the most fascinating aspect for me right now. And that is something that I think changed this past like 5 years or something. It wasn't the thing like 10 years ago, I would say, or at least I haven't really noticed it. So it's we are in its early steps. So I'm quite fascinated to see where it will go.
Yeah. Well, John, I want to thank you for taking time out, especially around the holidays. I'm sure you guys have a lot of things you need to do for Santa Claus. Again, I just want to thank you for again giving us your time. Thank you to our producer Oliver, and from all of us here at Evolution RPG, we want to wish you guys a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.